Presentation here from another one of our vendors, which is Cray, and so thank you for sponsoring, and happy to hear from you, Nathan.
Thanks. You guys hear me? Okay. So my name is Nate Schumann. I am a product manager at Cray. This is my first time at LUG, and since it snowed a couple of feet in Minnesota last week or the week before, I vote for South for 2020. So we'll see where 2019 ends up. Houston. Okay, great. So South. Awesome. Okay, cool. Problem solved. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the cluster store transition from Seagate to Cray. Give you guys a talk about what cluster store is today, where we're heading in over the next few years, talk about our work with Lustre and what Lustre really means to Cray, and then talk to you a little bit about something that we're doing with job stats that we recently announced at Supercomputer. So we've got the legal stuff. We've got a number of folks here that have probably been here at LUG with various companies, Xyratex, Seagate, and now Cray. And so for those of you that don't know, the cluster store business unit came over to Cray. We had the deal that closed just prior to SC17. With that move, we acquired a little over 100 people from Seagate. A very large portion of that was R&D, including support, service, sales. And then we also have quite a large number of folks that are doing Lustre development work for us that were at Seagate. So I think this is really cool. This puts us in a really good position to continue our work within the community, continuing to contribute, test, develop features, and then also work to land those features within Cray products and deliver them to our customers. And for us, I think the cluster store coming to Cray really fits within our business, right? So Synexion, now Cluster Store, has been our #1 storage solution over the last 5 years, since 2012, I think. We actually did, I think our first deployment was at Blue Waters, which is, I think, the first file system that hit 1 terabyte a second. And so we've got, okay, maybe I'm wrong, second file system. All right, thank you. But this has been a really important part of Cray's business, and now that we've got the storage, we've got the compute, I think it's a really great alignment, and I think it gives us a lot of capability that we didn't have previously as two separate companies. I'm getting there. So we've got alignment, and then we've got integration, and I was trying to get we've got all of our ducks in a row. It's sort of a metaphor, I guess. We've got our ducks in a row. All of these folks that came over from Seagate and now are part of Cray are completely integrated into Cray. And so I think importantly to this audience, our R&D folks are integrated. And what we'll also see is with this integration, we'll see some cross-pollination coming, I think, from the compute side into storage and vice versa. So I could have used the stormtroopers maybe. I don't know. But I don't want to be part of the dark side, right? We're part of the light. I don't know. And so for us, again, Cray is fully committed to Cluster Store, and much more importantly, we're committed to Lustre. And this acquisition is just helping us solidify that. Our current platform, this is the Cluster Store L300. Also for those that have Synexions, this is the Synexion 3000. So as part of the move from Seagate to Cray, we decided to unify our branding, and so now we're just branding under the Cluster Store name. So the Cluster Store solution is scale up and scale out. So we've got some building blocks here. These are called scalable storage units. You scale up and you can scale out multiple racks. We've got the metadata management unit. We support D&E. And today the solution is based on Lustre 2.7, and of course we support a wide variety of networks, a bunch of different storage options in terms of disk capacity. And then we've recently announced the L300N, and so this is it's very similar to the L300 with the addition of this NXD I/O manager. And so what we do is we integrate a couple of SSDs into the solution so that we can tackle some more interesting problems rather than just large block streaming applications. There's been a lot of interest in small I/O here, and so that enables us to address small I/O workloads. Let's see here. Can I do this? So NXD, essentially, we're taking all I/O coming from clusters or Cray supercomputers, whether it's random, unaligned, small block. We want to be able to more effectively address all of these workloads. So I/Os that are smaller than, say, 64K, they'll land in this SSD part of the SSU, and then large block sequential workloads will just flow straight through to disk. Okay. And so the idea is that we're going to be able to improve a lot of different workloads. And I thought it was really cool, the AI and all the different use cases for Lustre. I think that these capabilities, along with all of the software capabilities that are coming in with Lustre and new features, are really going to help us bring Lustre to a much broader set of customers. So I'm really excited about that. Over the next few years, we've been working on, I guess, defining HPC storage with our rack scale out solution with ClusterStor. We want to continue pressing on that flash button, and I think that we've seen the economics of flash. We're not there yet. We're not ready to deploy 100% flash solutions, but everybody's racing to get there, and there's some pretty cool procurements that are coming out over the next few years that we'll start to see that. But what you'll see from Cray is in this year, we'll start to do some more hybrid things with our storage. And then as we start to look out into 2022 and beyond, we'll start to bleed into all flash. And so we are relying on a lot of the improvements that are coming in with Lustre to be able to take advantage of that performance. And so we're working on that with customers, with the community as well. And so Lustre is really, really important to Cray. We've been at this for much longer than I've been at Cray, which is 6 years. We had a product called CLFS before that, and we were doing custom solutions. And then when we got Synexion, we really started to hit our stride with Lustre. And so, again, we're focused at going after a large portion of the top 100, and the ClusterStor solution fits right within that. And so, as I said, we're working on some pretty cool things over the next few years, some cool systems, and we want to bring Lustre along with us. And so, as we're all racing to get to exascale, we want to see how far we can press Lustre, and also as well as addressing a broad set of use cases. And so we want to forge ahead with these hybrid Lustre file systems. There's a ton of features that are coming in 2.11 that are really going to be our basis for being able to field these types of systems. And then we also want to be able to bring monitoring and metrics and more meaningful data about what's going on in the file system. And so what I'll talk about here in a few minutes is what we're doing with job stats. I certainly won't go into all of these features, but I think that there's, at least it sounds like from the presentations and what folks are asking questions about, that they're all really excited to get to some of these features. And what we want to do, I'm going to actually skip ahead, is this is another laundry list of features. What we want to do is get there as fast as we can. And so what we've decided to do is we've got these 2.11 features that were marked as future, but we're actually going to rebase our next release on Lustre 2.11. So this is something that will come in this year as well. And so we're super excited to be able to get to 2.11, to be able to deliver these solutions. And I think that there's been some comments about the quality of the features that are landing in the Lustre release. Cray has been doing a lot of testing as well as the community. And so we think, as we start to project out into the future and looking at these hybrid solutions, these flash solutions, that we need to get to Lustre 2.11 as quickly as we can.
So you are jumping from 2.7 to 2.11?
That is correct.
And how closely will you follow up when you release the something?
So while we probably are not going to get to every single, so it's unlikely that we will go to 2.12 and then to 2.13, but we will evaluate that, right? So one is, how fast can customers really actually accept these releases? So it's likely that we might skip 2.12, okay? But what we want to do is focus on this canonical Lustre release tree. And so we will be monitoring, obviously, the community releases, bringing in bug fixes from master. Also, we have our own customers that have bugs, and so we'll be delivering those to master. We want to land those bug fixes into master, as well as land them in our Lustre release. And then those contributions, again, will land in master. So I think, Andreas or Peter was saying that it used to be all the vendors would have their own Lustre release, and we'd have all these bifurcated releases. Well, we're focusing on the community release. So that is our direction. And my last few minutes, I want to talk about what we're doing with a product that we're calling View for Cluster Store. So this is something that we introduced at SC this past year. We've been in beta for several months. We are now in GA. And what we're doing is we're taking advantage of, one, job stats, right? So people talk about it. It's been around since Lustre 2.5. And we want to do something with that data and actually start to bring that out to a usable user interface. We also want to start to bring in more information about the storage environment as a whole. So job stats, statistics from the storage itself, bring in syslogs, hardware events, but also look at the storage fabric as well to start to build a more holistic picture of what's happening in the environment. So ideally, if we saw a port fallout on the InfiniBand fabric, or we saw a failover happen on our storage solution, that we would actually be able to visualize and quickly determine that, hey, a user called up, or users called up and said, we're having problems with the file system. You'd be able to go and ideally quickly determine that, hey, this happened, or if a particular application was having problems, that maybe you should change striping, maybe you should think about different block sizes instead of doing all these tiny IOs that Patrick was talking about, maybe think a little bit differently about that. And so this is a view of the jobs that are running on a particular system. And I think more importantly, besides just showing you what the job is doing, we also want to assign some quality. So we're trying to let people know what a quality job would be. So for example, here we're flagging a job that's doing 4K IOs. We're flagging that same job for doing a total of 7 million metadata operations. So we want to quickly show you that, hey, maybe we should go talk to user 1356 and try to understand what it is they're doing, why they're doing it, and maybe we can help to improve it. These are tunable, so by default we're 64K IOs or smaller, or 1 million metadata operations or larger. That will flag the job, but every customer is different, Every site is different, and so we give the opportunity to tune that. And this is, by far not the end-all, be-all measure of job quality. And so we're actively working with customers. I would love to hear what folks here think about, when they try to assign job quality, what they look for to understand that. And then we're enabling visualization. And so we can look at what a job is doing. We can compare it to what's happening on the system. So we've got write rates, read rates, metadata operations for this job. We can compare to what's going on in the system. So if this job was doing the bulk of the I/O, maybe this is the bad actor in the system. Or perhaps that the system is really busy and we just need to tell the user to maybe be patient a little bit. I don't know. But we're also incorporating events, right? So we want to show you, visualize that, again, if we have a port fail out, InfiniBand port fail, if we have a server fail over, something else happened in the environment that impacted performance, we want to be able to look at that and then give you some contextual information about what's happening. And I think that was fast. Questions? Oh, thanks.
Okay, since as the host, I'm going to take the chance to ask the first question. You selected 2.11 as, possibly, Cray's long-term support version because you might carry that for a while, versus selecting the 2.10 long-term support version. So I guess this isn't a question with simple answers, but how do we what's the vision there for selecting 2.11 and then making that a long-term product?
So in order to begin executing on our longer-term roadmap, right, where we are going to start to see these hybrid solutions come in, we felt it was really important to get to 2.11. We're looking at file-level replication, data on metadata, all of these capabilities that are just, they're not going to land in 2.10. They're coming into 2.11, and we wanted to get there as quickly as we can. As far as following along with the LTS release, so the 2.10 LTS release, so we've got customers that are going to report bugs, so we have to do bug fixes. We can monitor the LTS and see which ones that we need to pull in from master, right? So master is effectively 2.12 now, and so we'll be able to monitor those changes and incorporate them in our release.
That was one of my questions. Thanks. So the second question, maybe I misremember, but last time I checked, there was a disconnect between the server-side network statistics and the job stats coming from the clients. There was not an easy way to comprehensively combine that different kind of statistics. Are you looking some way to correlate the LNet stats with the job stats?
So we haven't gotten to LNet yet. That's capturing LNet statistics and incorporating them into into View. That's something that we're eagerly trying to get to. I don't think that you can, I'm not the technical guy here, but I'm not sure if we can correlate them to jobs. Are you asking about correlation? So I think perhaps the best we could do is to figure out what nodes this job was running on and kind of do an extrapolation that, or try to correlate it that way. We know this is the job, these are what nodes it was running on. We can hopefully look at the traffic of those nodes and then correlate that way. But if you've got nodes that are running multiple jobs, like so we've got Mamu and some other things, harder. Yeah.
The implementation of Caribou?
Yes. Yeah, sorry, yeah. So for those of you who we talked to previously, View was called Project Caribou, and now that's the new marketing name, View for Cluster Store.
So I'll ask, is this essentially kind of a value add that that Cray brings with cluster store products then?
Right.
Their interest in a more community involved method, because we were just having this conversation after lunch that, you know, I could, you know, buy a Cray, have this product, I could have some DDNs, and I think the new name for it is DDN Insight. I could have maybe IML running somewhere, I could have LTOP, you know, there's a smattering of these monitoring options,
Right.
a bit of a fragmentation in the community. So I think for maybe the user community, it might be easier and or better. And I understand the business implications,
Sure.
but I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
I guess I don't have an answer. It's sort of like the question with the file system statistics monitoring, although most of that's done in the open source world. I guess I'd like to have a conversation and just talk about it.
I may be alone, but it's tough. You know, when it's tough enough setting up Lustre and managing Lustre, but then you have this smattering of tools and things beyond that you have to kind of pick and choose from. And I think for people coming into the community, it may take years for them to understand what tools they really need to do their job.
I don't have an easy answer, but we can certainly have a conversation, yeah.